All right. I don't know if this is working. Let's see. It looks like it's working on StreamYard. I can't really tell whether it's working on YouTube. Tried to pin it. Seems to like be working unless that's the wrong connection. Let's see. That's bogus. This is certainly a learning experience. Steep hill, as they say. I'm over here advertising for StreamYard. Let's see. I was a little bummed Ethan didn't get to swing either. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if he had a super sleep session after last night. There's some upcoming stuff, it looks like. Anyway, see how this goes, like Scott's live stream. Um, yeah, that movie that everybody watched last night, or discussed last night, was, oh man, it was, I thought it was a horrible movie. Not a fan. It didn't seem to stimulate me like it did a lot of others, but then listening to them talk, well, let me back up. I did attempt to try to rewatch it before the stream, um, and I wanted to support what Ezra was doing, and I fell asleep. So, but then I woke up in the midstream, and I got to rewatch the beginning part of the stream. But yeah, you guys were bringing up some pretty cool points, in ways I didn't look at, which is, I guess, what Community does. Um, it didn't mean I wasn't frustrated with the characters, um, and it didn't mean that I couldn't slightly identify with each one to its own degree the way that people were talking about. But I think the issue was they were completely different from me from the way they see life perspective, and it made it very difficult to relate to them. And I think that's usually what movies do, is you always can find somebody you can relate to, at least the good ones. If it's not the hero, it's the sidekick, and it's not the sidekick, it's the nemesis. So that's why when I went into that movie, I had different expectations. And as they say, expectations cause future resentments. So I resented the film. Um, every time the waiter came over and he had this look on his face, like I was like reading into the waiter. I know exactly what you're thinking right now. What are these two idiots talking about? What is wrong with them? They're not even in the real world. Period. So to me, it seemed like I could identify with the waiter more than the two characters. So I related to what Scott was saying about that, which was pretty cool. Um, yeah. So sorry about that. I guess when you check YouTube to see if Ethan was live, and that didn't work. It stole the camera from StreamYard. So, but yeah. Anyway, I don't know if there's a way. Let me see here. I'll make sure nobody's sitting in the quote unquote green room. Okay, I don't see anybody in there. Anyway, so, but yeah, as you guys were unpacking some of this and stuff, I thought it was pretty cool. Um, well, I have to do a little more thinking on how I want to express the new way of feeling about the movie. I think Ezra did a great job, though. The stream was awesome. Um, I think somebody in the comments said for a first stream, he had 10 blocks out, 10 participants, which is pretty awesome. And it made me think of making sure people are all on the same page and can kind of plan for something. I think would be would be helpful. And having a central topic already picked out and lined out that people can chew on and come up with some thoughts. So I think that's probably helpful as well. Um, yeah. So anyway, this was a fun trial. Let me see here. Let's see. Christian Diaspora. Let's see if I can go on stage here. Okay, that's cool. Um, yeah. Um, I don't think it changed that. I think I've always known movies can emotionally affect me and depict things and convey things. It's probably why I stay, it's like Scott was saying, I kind of have pulled away from movies because I get really upset with being manipulated. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Like, you'll literally fast forward through parts of like skip when it's like, I don't want to say pedantic, but it's like, it's kind of like, okay, this is a red scene. I don't need to get into all that. Like, it doesn't matter. Like I know what they're trying to do here, or the tense build up before somebody's going to jump out. I'm like, okay, we know it's going to happen. Skip. I don't need to be uh, put on suspense and put into an emotional feeling. It just bothers me. And that's my own issues, I guess, but I just guard my emotions in a higher way. And because of that, it makes me see movies probably in a not very fun way. Like I did want to get something out of it if I was going to watch it, draw some meaning and think. But I also, because of the way that I see things, it reminds me back to when comedy and tragedy on stage was first being, like I was in Greece when this was happening, but when it was first being introduced and some of the people, I forget whether it was Socrates, there were some people that really saw an issue with it and they could see how it incited the population. Um, you know, I do believe God uses all things. So, at the end of the day, I hate saying that phrase, but it can be beneficial for sure. It can convey uh, emotions that are needed to be conveyed to stir up. But oftentimes it seems like art has done, maybe it's since the Enlightenment, I've kind of gotten into that a little bit, right? Um, but I feel like when people are using things to manipulate a, a worldview or a what's highest, as PVK likes to say, their version of religion and push that out there in the general sphere and get people on their team. So yeah, when everything becomes critical and you're viewing everything from the individual, that's problematic long term. So that's frustrating. Um, and maybe it's just the way that I'm wired and my formation and the things I've been through that make me not want to go down those roads. But but it causes me to be very defensive in how I'm going to watch why am I going to watch something? I think when they first suggested this movie, I said, "What about Waking Life?" That was a great movie. Like, I mean, I didn't agree with everything in it, but it was a lot deeper and forthright with what it was conveying. This one was using characters, like Chad said, in a very thumbnail way, like the way they were talking about people in a thumbnail way, but they were thumbnails in themselves. They were kind of caricatures of types. And they brought up the baby boomer thing. And I think I said in my comments, I said, I think it's funny that there's quote unquote baby boomers, this generation of two dudes, but yet neither one of them seems to have kids, which was by definition of what they boomers were supposedly known for. But these two guys were definitely in the minority in their generation of how they saw the world. They were chasing dreams in New York, and one went more balanced and one went more extreme, constantly looking for the more. So, um, yeah, I think that's why I had a hard time identifying with them or connecting with them. Um, I've met a lot of Andre people in my life, and it would be so frustrating because I feel like I couldn't tell whether they genuinely were seeking something or whether they were building their caricature up and their persona up so they could tell people how unique they are, authentic they are with doing these weird things and experiencing these unusual things. Um, and it used to frustrate me, not out of jealousy, but out of the idea that they were out there searching for something and it's like that God-shaped hole that they're trying to fill with all these weird experiences, and they're dabbling with things that, like, being buried alive in this whole idea, like, to think you need to go through something like that to experience that, um, to have some sort of huge revelation. I remember watching The Century of Self. It's on Google Videos. It's like 4 hours, and it's about, people in the corner have talked about this. I saw this like 20 years ago, and I remember thinking, "This everybody needs to see this. This is fascinating." And I thought, um, how when they got into the 70s, people were having their, you know, emotional breakdowns, freaking out, a bunch of a whole room full of people screaming. It's like then we moved into the self-help era, you know, and I think somebody said, I forget who first said it, but it was therapeutic deism. It was like they believe there's something greater. There's this therapeutic revival that can come out of it, and so many people went different directions. And maybe you had a Jesus Revolution movement that came out of it, or maybe you had, you know, people that went super commune, but they were seeking, and they knew there was something, or New Age movement. That was another one, right? So I think that these are the things I feel like derail the Christian voice, the voice that Christians that should be standing in place and stating what was bringing them hope and joy, and why they see the world in such a different place, than the atheist movement, that came about, because these new age movements and stuff like that, you either kind of fell into two camps. You could start to become an atheist potentially, or you ended up in something quite wooey. Um, so yeah, and because it bothers me that these are people. Sometimes I don't seem like it, but I really care about these people, and it breaks my heart that they're out there in these spaces because of church hurt, or because the way the world chewed them up and spit them out in general. So um, yeah, I guess that was my frustration, because I feel like maybe it does convey characters that a lot of people can identify with from a general perspective in the world at the time, more so than something more true. But I mean, I'm an artist, so I mean, that's not what I do for a living, but it's something I love. I love, but I also know the danger in falling down the hole of being obsessed with my art, you know, to the extreme of somebody being such a unique abstract painter that he gets a zero or something like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that this is what I think. I think you and I were talking about this. If you're still out there, CD, that is it CW or CD? I know that people call me CW. You had said that we should talk about the Enlightenment. And I just felt like, yeah, I mean, the damage that I feel was done from that movement, and now might have been self created damage, from the church early on, but the way that it came back in our country, came over across the ocean and came into our country in the mid 20th century, it seems very apparent the damage that it did to Christianity too here. So I'm always cautious about art. As soon as they changed the goalposts on what art was for, like, here's a painting, and you say to the artist, what is it a painting of? Maybe it's an abstract painting. And the artist says, well, what is it? How does it make you feel? And what do you see? And somebody's staring at a blob of blue and red and all sorts of stuff. And, one guy will say one thing, one guy will say another thing. I'm like, what are we talking about here? It's like a therapeutic session staring into ink blot. You're basically reading your emotions into the painting. And I don't think that's healthy. I mean, maybe in a psychiatrist's office, it could be potentially healthy, but an artist is just trying to make money and make something beautiful. And the way that he's going to tap into your emotions is by making you put your emotions onto the painting. But if Van Gogh made paintings the way that he made them, it was just his form of art. But it no longer mattered what was being painted and how it was being depicted. It's how it made you feel. And I thought that that was a big problem. I think that's a big problem. So when I share my art with somebody, I don't say, hey, how does it make you feel? Um, I just think, hey, what do you think? Isn't it cool? Like, what about this medium? Did you like it? Do you think it's cool? Um, the image itself, how it was created, means more to me because of the person doing it. I can respect that more than the actual image. Um, and even though I'm a reformer, I don't shy away from religious imagery, but I also am conscious that just like me smoking a cigarette, it could be creating a stumbling block for somebody. And that's not my desire. In the Bible, it says, you shouldn't be doing things that create stumbling blocks for other people. Um, and maybe it's a wrong assumption in this space to ever be smoking on camera. But I feel like most people in this space probably aren't really struggling with that sort of thing. Seems they're struggling with more deeper things. And I don't think a cigarette is an issue. Maybe if they were sitting right next to me, that would be totally different. But anyway, my point is that I don't know if by making art and religious art, if it would create a stumbling block for somebody. I don't show it to everybody, but if somebody actually venerated something I made because it was a Christian image, um, I don't know how God would, I don't know if that would be cool. I don't think he would be pretty happy with me. Well, another conversation. My point is, I don't think that it'd be a good thing to create something that gives somebody the potential stumbling block to venerate an image that I cultivated. So, so yeah, art and me, we have a we have a funny relationship. I see things different than other people, and there's a lot of artists in this TLC, and I appreciate all of them, and they probably see art differently than I do. Even with this YouTube stuff, I wanted to not do things right away because I wanted to create something really cool and entertaining and something people could have fun with when they watched it. Um, and yeah, maybe it is evoking an emotion of joy because it maybe brings a smile to their face. But I would prefer it to be more interconnected with me than the art and the editing and things like that. I'd want not just me, but just what I'm discussing. So yeah, so to me, I feel like that would be more beneficial. The content, hey, what's being discussed, the relationships and the communication with people, and then the other stuff is just not creating a stumbling block. It's kind of like having clips here and there. That's not what I want my channel, what I want for my channel, either one of them. And I want it to be not manipulating your emotions, but giving you something to think about and interacting with me and with others. To me, that's more of the goal. Um, but I'm not saying I don't have, like my motive isn't that, well, it would make me feel good. Well, of course it'd make me feel good, but that's way down the pecking order of what my goal is for it. Um, and maybe that's almost codependent. That I care more about what other people are able to get out of the experience, but I don't want to manipulate their emotions. I don't want to incite their emotions. Those things may happen, but it isn't going to be because I plotted to do that. And I schemed to tap into a struggle that you had with your parents, or schemed to talk about something difficult. So anyway, Ethan didn't come on. Scott jumped on. He did his live mobile. That made me think, well, I guess maybe I could do that. So I figured I'd give this a try. Um, those are the small thoughts I had about last night. And hopefully Chris will be live streaming this one. I can't remember what he said he was or wasn't today. But anyway, if he is, I'll be jumping on there in the comments and heading to work. So anyway, appreciate everybody if anybody is watching, and I appreciate CD or CW for commenting. And hopefully this comes out okay. And with that, I'll end this.